spinal cord are familiar with you, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so today we are going to discuss about the brain stem. Here we can see the brain stem, the gross features of the brain stem. This is the medulla oblongata, which is just above the spinal cord. Okay, this is the medulla oblongata, and this one is the pons, and this is the midbrain. So these three structures all together they form the brain stem, and they occupy in the posterior cranial fossa. In the osteology, we discuss about the interior of the cranial cavity in the later classes. So for now, you know the interior of the cranial cavity is divided into three fossa. That is the anterior cranial fossa, middle cranial fossa, and the posterior cranial fossa. So the brain stem, which is occupied towards the posterior cranial fossa. And craniocaudally, it is made up of midbrain, pons, and the medulla oblongata. So here from above downward, this is the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. So the midbrain is continuous above with the cerebral hemisphere, and the medulla oblongata is continuous below with the spinal cord. So here we can see this is the terminal part or the distal end of the medulla oblongata, from where the spinal cord begins below, and this is the cerebrum, which is just above the midbrain. So these three structures comes under the brain stem. So craniocaudally, midbrain, pons, and the medulla oblongata. Here we can see some cranial nerves. They are emerging from the brain stem. We'll discuss in the different area in later slides. So the number of the cranial nerves are attached to the brain stem. So for example, third and fourth cranial nerves emerge from the surface of the midbrain. So this is the surface of the midbrain, from where the third and the fourth cranial nerve, the oculomotor and the trochlear nerve, they emerges from here. And the fifth cranial nerve from the pons. So this is the ventral surface of the pons. This is the trigeminal nerve or the fifth cranial nerve, which is present emerging from the ventral surface of the pons. And the sixth, seventh, and the eighth cranial nerves at the junctions of the pons and the medulla, that is known as pontomedullary junction. So this is the pontomedullary junction, from where the emergence of the sixth abducent, facial, and the vestibulocochlear nerve. So 6, 7, and 8 nerves, they are in relation to the pontomedullary junction. And the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th cranial nerve from the surface of the medulla. So here we can see the surface of the medulla, from where the emergence of the 9th, 10th, and 11th cranial nerve from the posterolateral sulcus, and the 12th cranial nerve from the anterolateral sulcus in the medulla oblongata. So we can see in details about these in later slides. So these are the cranial nerves in relation to the brain stem. So in short, third and fourth cranial nerves from the midbrain, fifth cranial nerve from the ventral surface of the pons, 6th, 7th, and 8th cranial nerves at the junction of the pons and medulla, and the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th nerve in relation to the medulla oblongata. So do you have any queries till now? Are you getting or not? Sushant, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
So do you have any queries?
Not now, ma'am.
Okay, Priya, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Are you getting or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so here we can see the next structure in the posterior cranial fossa, that is the cerebellum. So this is the section of the cerebellum posterior to the medulla and the pons. So this is the pons, then this one is the medulla oblongata. Posterior to this is the cerebellum, and it's separated from both the structures by the cavity of the fourth ventricle. So here we can see a small cavity in between the pons and the medulla anteriorly, and cerebellum posteriorly is the fourth ventricle. So we'll discuss later in about the ventricles. So the ventricle is continuous below with the central canal of the spinal cord, which traverses the lower part of the medulla and becomes continuous with the central canal of the spinal cord. And cranially, the ventricle is continuous with the aqueduct which passes through the midbrain. So aqueduct is the junction between the midbrain and the third ventricle. The midbrain, pons and the medulla are connected with the cerebellum by the superior, middle and the inferior cerebellar peduncles respectively. So superior, middle and the inferior cerebellar peduncles, they are the fibers, the bundle of the fibers which connect the medulla oblongata, pons and the midbrain to the cerebellum. So inferior cerebellar peduncle which connect the medulla oblongata with the cerebellum, middle cerebellar peduncle which connect the pons to the cerebellum, and the superior cerebellar peduncle which connect the midbrain to the cerebellum. So superior, middle and the inferior cerebellar peduncles, they are the bundle of the fibers and they connect the brainstem to the cerebellum. So what is the functions of the brainstem? It has three broad functions. They serve as the highway or the passes of ascending and descending tracts, connecting the spinal cord to the different part of the higher centers of the forebrain. So you discuss about the ascending tract and the descending tract in the spinal cord, right? So for example, the pyramid or the corticospinal tract is the descending tract, whereas the spinothalamic tract is the ascending tract. So they are the tracts which are passing the information from the lower centers to the higher centers, and they passes through the brainstem or the highway. And it contains the important reflex centers associated with the controls of respiration and cardiovascular system and with the control of consciousness. So they carry the information to the higher center and to provide the reflex. And it contains the important nuclei of the cranial nerves from 3rd to the 12th, as we discussed before. Motor and sensory neurons of the cranial nerves are basically organized in the longitudinal columns. So it is very important because the motor neurons are arranged in anterior aspect and the sensory in the posterior aspect. So the neurons are the somatic efferent neurons, somatomotor to the skeletal muscles or the striated muscles. For example, the upper limb, lower limb muscles, they are the somatic muscles or the somatomotor muscles. They are the voluntary muscles. They are supplied by the somatic efferent nuclei or the neurons. Spatial, visceral, efferent. Spatial means having the spatial property, and visceral means viscera, efferent means to the motor. Okay, so they are the branchiomotor nuclei or the neurons to the muscles derived from the pharyngeal arch. We discussed in the head and neck portion the pharyngeal arch. They are the arches which are responsible to develop the head and neck region. So first arch, second arch, third arch, we discussed, they are the pharyngeal arches which gives rise to the development of the face and the neck region. So this area is supplied by the spatial, visceral, efferent neuron. And the general visceral efferent, the visceromotor, the preganglionic parasympathetic fibers to the glands and the smooth muscles, for example, parotid gland, for example, smooth muscles which are present in the vessels and the interior or internal organs. So they are the general sensation from the viscera. Okay, so they are the general visceral efferent. So these three are the motor neurons. Okay, they are the somatic efferent to the skeletal muscles, spatial visceral efferent to the muscles derived from the pharyngeal arches, and general visceral efferent to the glands and the smooth muscles. Similarly, the sensory neurons are arranged in 4 columns. So they are the general visceral afferent. So viscerosensory. So general sensation from the viscera, the internal structures, they carry via the general visceral afferent fibers. Spatial visceral afferent gustatory, the sensation of the smell and the taste are carried by the spatial visceral afferent. General somatic afferent, sensory, exteroceptive and proprioceptive from the joints and the muscles. And the spatial somatic afferent neurons, they are coming from hearing, for the hearing and the balance. Okay, so they are the sensory neurons arranged in 4 columns: general visceral afferent, spatial visceral afferent, general somatic afferent, and the spatial somatic afferent. So these terminology we are using frequently, so you have to be familiar with these terminologies. Okay, And the nuclei which are present as the motor and the sensory nuclei in the medulla oblongata, for example, hypoglossal nerve, okay, that is the somatic efferent, special visceral efferent, for example, nucleus ambiguans, and the general visceral efferent inferior salivatory nucleus that is responsible for the ninth cranial nerve and the vagus, and general visceral afferent, for example, nucleus of tractus solitarius in relation to the cranial nerve 9th, 10th, and the special visceral afferent, okay, 19th nerve, a general somatic afferent from the pain and temperature of the trigeminal area, head and neck region, and special somatic afferent, for example, vestibular and the cochlear nerve. Similarly, in the midbrain and the pons, the nerves, oculomotor nerves and trochlear nerves in the midbrain, and the pons, the abducens nerve. So they are the neurons in relation to the different area of the brainstem. They are the medulla, pons, and the midbrain. So they are the neurons which carry the sensation either to the higher center or to the muscles and the glands. So move on to the medulla oblongata. So they all are in brief about the brainstem. Okay. So do you have any queries? Sandhya, are you there? Sandhya?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Niriksha, are you getting?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. If you have any queries, please ask. Okay. And move on to the medulla oblongata. So today I'll discuss about the external features and the internal features of the medulla oblongata. So medulla oblongata is the terminal part of the brainstem, which is the continuation above from the spinal cord. So this is the section of the spinal cord, and this area is the medulla oblongata, and this one is the pons, and this is the pontomedullary junction. Some nerves are emerging here, and these are the pyramids, and this is the anterolateral sulcus, and this one is olive, and this one is the posterolateral sulcus. So these are the external features of the medulla oblongata. So it connects the pons superiorly and the spinal cord inferiorly. So this is the part between the spinal cord and the pons. So the length of the medulla oblongata is 3 centimeter from here to here. So this is the length of the spinal cord, medulla oblongata, that is the 3 centimeter, 2 centimeter in breadth, and 1.25 centimeter in thickness. So 3 into 2 into 1.25 centimeter is the measurement of the medulla oblongata. So it is conical in shape. So here we can see the broader extremity being directed superiorly and the narrow extremity being directed below. And it is divided into two halves by the anterior and the posterior median fissure. So here we can see the anterior median fissure in front, and similarly the same fissure in the posterior aspect. So it divides into each lateral half. So each half is further divided into anterior and the posterior and lateral by the anterolateral and the posterolateral sulcus. So each half is further divided into anterior, posterior, and the lateral by the anterolateral and the posterolateral sulcus. So here we can see this is the anterolateral sulcus, and this one is the posterolateral sulcus. The line of junction between the medulla and the spinal cord is the imaginary horizontal line passing just above the attachment of the first pair of the cervical nerves. So that is at the level of upper border of C1 vertebra. Okay, so first pair of the cervical nerve. And the pontomedullary junction is represented by horizontal sulcus, which gives attachment bilaterally to the abducent nerve, 6th cranial nerve, facial nerve, 7th cranial nerve, and the vestibulocochlear nerve. That is the 8th cranial nerve. So 6th, 7th, and 8th cranial nerve on the pontomedullary junction. So talking about the ventral surface of the medulla oblongata, it presents the deep vertical cleft. So anterior median fissure. So this is the anterior median fissure is the deep vertical cleft which divide the medulla oblongata into two equal right and the left half. on each side of the median fissure there is a swelling or the elevation. So this is the pyramid. So it is composed by the bundles of the nerve fibers which originate from the cerebral cortex, like corticospinal from cerebral cortex to the spinal cord, and the corticopontine fibers, so from the cerebral cortex to the pons. Corticopontine from cortex to the pontine. Okay, they are the fiber descending tracts which forms the pyramid. So this is the elevation on each side of the median, anterior median fissure. They are the pyramid. So this is pyramid having the fibers. They are the corticospinal and the corticopontine fibers continuous downward. So pyramid gradually flattens and tapers in the lower part. So in the lower part it gradually flattens and tapers because of the decussation of the fibers in the lower aspect. Here we can see the decussation of the fibers, pyramidal fibers. So in the lower part of the medulla where the pyramid gets tapered, the majority of the descending fibers cross over to the opposite side, forming the decussation of the pyramid or the pyramidal decussation. So just above the decussation, a few nerve fibers of the pyramid emerge from the anterior median fissure and runs laterally over the surface of the medulla and enter into the cerebellum through the inferior cerebellar peduncle, that is known as anterior external arcuate fiber. So just above the decussation, some fibers, they goes to the cerebellum and they are known as anterior external arcuate fiber. And here we can see the anterior median fissure which is shallow in the lower part because of the decussation or the crossing of the corticospinal tract here. So they are the decussation of the pyramid. So posterolateral to the pyramids, the oval elevation called the olives. So here we can see the elevated area, the oval elevation on the lateral aspect of the pyramids that is produced by the inferior olivary nucleus in the inner aspect. So that is known as olives. Okay, so that oval elevation is known as olives, that is produced by the underlying inferior olivary nuclei. And the rootlets of the hypoglossal nerve emerge between the pyramid and the olive. So here we can see the hypoglossal nerve. So hypoglossal nerve is responsible to supply the tongue and is emerging from the anterolateral sulcus. So this is the anterolateral sulcus between the pyramid and the olive. So hypoglossal nerve. So posterior to the olive are the inferior cerebellar peduncles which connect the medulla to the cerebellum. And we discussed during the cerebellum class about what are the fibers they are present in the inferior cerebellar peduncles. So in the group between the olive and the inferior cerebellar peduncle, roots of the 9th, 10th and the 11th cranial nerves are emerging. So in the posterolateral sulcus, here we can see the 9th, 10th and the 11th cranial nerve. So 9th means glossopharyngeal, 10th means vagus, and 11th means the cranial part of the accessory nerve. So 19th and 11th nerve, they are emerging from the posterolateral sulcus just behind the olive. Are you getting? Do you have any queries till now? Pema, are you there? Pema?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay. So move on to the dorsal surface of the medulla oblongata. So the dorsal surface of the medulla oblongata is divided into lower closed half and the upper open half. So here we can see the upper open half just below the stria medullaris, the fiber here, and this is the lower closed half. It is the continuation of the spinal cord. So lower closed half and the upper open half is the part of the dorsal surface of the medulla oblongata, and it is continuous with the posterior aspect of the spinal cord. So the lower part or the closed part is continuous with the posterior aspect of the spinal cord. So upper open half is marked by V-shaped depression where the central canal open and forms the floor of the fourth ventricle. So this is the floor of the fourth ventricle, which is formed by the pons, the posterior aspect of the pons above, and the posterior aspect of the medulla oblongata, the open part below. Okay, so this is the floor of the fourth ventricle. So lower closed half divided into two halves by the posterior median sulcus. So this is the posterior median sulcus, which divides into two equal halves. On each side of the median sulcus, the longitudinal elevation called the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus are there. So that is the continuation of the spinal cord. So I think you know the section of the spinal cord. In the posterior aspect, there is presence of fasciculus gracilis and the fasciculus cuneatus. So that is the continuation above till the closed part of the medulla oblongata. So fasciculus gracilis, the medial aspect, and in the lateral aspect, the fasciculus cuneatus. So the upper end of these elevation expand to form the swelling called the gracile tubercle and the cuneate tubercle, that is formed by the underlying gracile and the cuneate nucleus respectively. So gracile tubercle due to the presence of the gracile nucleus, and the cuneate tubercle due to the presence of the cuneate nucleus. So medially gracile, fasciculus gracilis and the gracile tubercle, fasciculus cuneatus on the lateral aspect, and the cuneate tubercle. Sorry. Immediately lateral to the cuneate tubercle, there is another longitudinal elevation called the tuberculum cinerum. Lateral to the cuneate tubercle is this. So that is the tuberculum cinerum, and formed by the underlying spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. Again, the trigeminal nerve is the fifth cranial nerve. So upper open half of the medulla oblongata. This is the upper open half of the medulla oblongata, just below the stria medullaris. It forms the lower part of the floor of the fourth ventricle, as I discussed before, and there is presence of the median sulcus in the center. It divides into two equal halves on the lateral aspect. Stria medullaris, the few efferent fibers of the arcuate nucleus extending dorsally. So this is the stria medullaris, and is the demarcation between the pons and the medulla oblongata. Hypoglossal trigone lies the hypoglossal nucleus. So this is the hypoglossal triangle or the trigone. Under it, there is presence of the hypoglossal nucleus. And on the lateral aspect, there is the vestibular area, and lies the four groups of the vestibular nuclei, upper, lower, medial, and the lateral. Vestibular nuclei are there on the lateral aspect. And the vagal trigone, beneath it contains the dorsal nucleus of the vagus nerve, here, 10th cranial nerve nuclei, and the area posterior acts as the chemoreceptors for the vomiting center, the junction. This is the area posterior, which is the chemoreceptors for the vomiting reflex. So that is the open part, or the upper open part of the medulla oblongata. Once again, it forms the lower part of the floor of the fourth ventricle, just below the stria medullaris, and median sulcus is there, and there is the hypoglossal triangle. Under to it is the hypoglossal nuclei, vagal trigone. Under to it is the vagal nuclei, and on the lateral aspect, vestibular area, there is presence of the four groups of the vestibular nuclei, and area posterior, this is the chemoreceptor for the vomiting center. So that is all about the gross features of the medulla oblongata. So this is the floor of the fourth ventricle. So upper open part is formed by the pons, and lower part is formed by the medulla oblongata of the posterior aspect of the medulla oblongata. So this is the stria medullaris, the junction between the pons and the medulla, hypoglossal trigone and the vagal trigone, okay, and area posterior, okay. So this is the vestibular area on the lateral aspect. So this is the area which is formed by the posterior aspect of the medulla oblongata, and this is the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus. So they are the continuation from the spinal cord. So in ventricle class, we'll discuss about the floor of the fourth ventricle. So you should recall the structures present in the floor of the fourth ventricle. So move on to the internal structure. Do you have any queries till now? Anybody? Do you have any queries? Any queries? Anybody? Dilasa, are you there? Arjun, are you there?
Yes, ma'am.
Arjun, do you have any queries?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so move on to the internal structures. Okay, so the internal structures of the medulla oblongata is studied at 4 levels. The gross feature, the external feature, and the internal features are important for exam purpose. Okay, so you have to draw and you have to show the structures present in the external features and in the cross section also. Okay, so the medulla oblongata is studied at 4 levels. First is level of decussation of the pyramids, level of decussation of lemnisci, sensory decussation, level of olives, and level just inferior to the pons. So they are the 4 sections where we can study about the internal features of the medulla oblongata. So level of decussation of the pyramids. So here we can see the important feature, that is the pyramid and its decussation. Okay, so that is the main features at this level. Similar to the spinal cord, central gray and the peripheral white matter. So gray matter or the nuclei are present in the center aspect, and peripherally here we can see the tract. The posterior spinocerebellar tract, lateral spinothalamic tract, anterior spinocerebellar tract. Okay, so they are the white fibers on the peripheral aspect, and the nuclei are present in the center. So nucleus gracilis, nucleus cuneatus. Okay, so they are in the center aspect, and main features in this section is the pyramidal decussation. So these are the fibers which are decussating, which are crossing over and forming the lateral and the anterior corticospinal tract. So decussation of the pyramid is the main features in this area. Okay, so the upper part of the medulla, the corticospinal fibers occupy and they form the medulla. Okay, so this is the pyramids, and this is the decussation of the fibers or the crossing over of the fibers, and other features are similar. Here we can see similar to the spinal cord, and here we can see in the posterior aspect they are the fasciculus gracilis and fasciculus cuneatus, and the nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. Okay, so that is the main features here. And other features in the lower part, the majority of the corticospinal fibers, about 3/4 fiber or about 70 to 90% of the fiber, they cross the median plane and separate the anterior gray column from the central gray matter, and they are forming the anterior and the lateral corticospinal tract. The detached anterior gray column, they forms the supraspinal nucleus medially, which gives origin to the ventral root of the first cervical nerves and the spinal nucleus of the accessory cranial nerves laterally. Accessory cranial nerves can be seen. Here, this one is the accessory cranial nerve on the lateral aspect, and this one is the lateral corticospinal tract. So the corticospinal fibers which decussate and they continue down the spinal cord in the lateral white column as the lateral corticospinal tract. This one is the lateral corticospinal tract, and whereas those which do not cross and they continue downward as the anterior corticospinal tract, they goes like this. So anterior corticospinal tract and the lateral corticospinal tract are forming here, and the tip posterior gray column, which is capped with the substantia gelatinosa, is now capped with the spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. So this is the spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve. Who is Bikram Prasad Chaudhary? Taking the request. Okay. So here we can see the spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve, spinal tract of the trigeminal nerve on the periphery. A bundle of the descending fibers called the spinal tract of the trigeminal nerve lies between the spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve and the surface of the medulla. And as we know, the fasciculus gracilis and the fasciculus cuneatus continue to ascend superiorly, posterior to the central gray matter. And the nucleus gracilis and the nucleus cuneatus appear as the posterior extension of the central gray matter. Nucleus gracilis and the nucleus cuneatus are there. So they are the main features which are present here in the at the level of the pyramid. So these are the pyramidal fibers which forms the corticospinal tract. So lateral corticospinal tract and the anterior corticospinal tract are there. Spinal nucleus of the trigeminal nerve and the spinal root of the accessory nerves, and the nucleus gracilis, nucleus cuneatus, and fasciculus gracilis and cuneatus are the main features at the level of the pyramid. So, are you getting or not? Here, and the nucleus of the tractus solitarius are also present. So the medial longitudinal fasciculus lies posterior to the medial lemniscus. So this is the medial longitudinal fasciculus which is present on the posterior aspect of these medial lemniscus or the decussation. So this is the medial lemniscus and this one is the medial longitudinal fasciculus. So they are the main features which are present in the medial lemniscus. And the next level is the level of Olive. The means of Olive is the olivary nucleus. So here we can see the main features, the presence of inferior olivary nucleus. So this is the inferior olivary nucleus. And here we can see other nucleus. They are the dorsal accessory olivary nucleus, the smaller one, and the medial accessory olivary nucleus. Okay, in the medial aspect. And here we can see the medial longitudinal fasciculus and other nuclei, for example, the hypoglossal nuclei and the vagal nuclei are also present over there. So this is the main features at this level, the olivary nucleus. So the amount of the gray matter has increased at this level owing to the presence of olivary nuclear complex. So these three nuclei, they form the olivary nuclear complex. They are the inferior olivary nucleus, the dorsal accessory olivary nucleus, and the medial olivary nucleus. And the others are the vestibulocochlear, glossopharyngeal, vagus, and the accessory and the hypoglossal nerve. They are present here. Okay, so they all are present over there. So the olivary complex means the inferior olivary nucleus is the largest nuclei. Here we can see the inferior olivary nucleus, the largest one. And it is responsible for the elevation on the surface of the medulla called the olives. So in the external feature we discussed about the olives, the oval shaped elevation on the lateral aspect of the medulla oblongata. So that is the olive that is produced by the inferior olivary nucleus and gets the spino-olivary fibers and also from the cerebral cortex. So they got the spino-olivary fibers and the fibers from the cerebral cortex. So that is the olivary clump complex, especially the inferior olivary nucleus. That is the main features at that level. And they send the fibers medially across the midline as the olivocerebellar fiber from olive to the cerebellum and to enter the cerebellum through the inferior cerebellar peduncle. The function of the olivary nuclei is associated with the voluntary muscle movement. So voluntary muscles movement and associated voluntary movement, muscular movement, the coordinated movement, they are responsible, they are produced by the olivary nuclear fiber. And the smaller dorsal and the medial accessory olivary nucleus are also present. So these are the dorsal accessory olivar nucleus and the medial accessory olivar nucleus. And the nucleus ambiguans is there. So this is the nucleus ambiguans, consists of large motor neurons and is situated deep within the reticular formation, deep within the gray matter. And it gives the fibers that joins the glossopharyngeal, vagus and the cranial part of the accessory. So it joins with the 9th, 10th and 11th cranial nerve and are distributed to the skeletal muscles derived from the pharyngeal arch, means the head and neck region. Okay, so that is the nucleus ambiguans is also present at this level. Medial longitudinal fasciculus. It forms the small tract of nerve fibers situated on each side of the midline. So here we can see the medial longitudinal fasciculus, this one, and posterior to the medial lemniscus and anterior to the hypoglossal nucleus. So here we can see the hypoglossal nucleus, which is anterior to the hypoglossal nucleus, the medial longitudinal fasciculus. That is the main pathway that connects the vestibular nuclei with the nuclei controlling the extraocular muscles and the muscles controlling the head and neck region. So 3rd, 4th and 6th nuclei and the spinal part of the accessory. So head and neck movement along with the eye movement is controlled by the medial longitudinal fasciculus. So small tract of the fiber situated in the middle. And they are the structures present in the medial longitudinal fasciculus and at the level of olive. And the last level just inferior to the pons. So we are cutting the medulla oblongata from below to above. So at the level of the pyramid, at the level of medial lemniscus or the lemniscus decussation, and at the level of olive, and now we are cutting the medulla oblongata at the level of just below the pons. So there is no major changes, but we can see the cochlear nuclei and the vestibular nuclei at this level. So only the lateral vestibular nuclei can be seen. Okay, so this is the lateral vestibular nuclei that is replaced by the inferior vestibular nuclei at this level, and the cochlear nuclei are visible on the anterior and the posterior aspect. So this is the anterior cochlear nuclei and this one is the posterior cochlear nuclei. So they are responsible to form the vestibulocochlear nerve. Okay, so they are the structures which are present at the level near to the pons. Okay, so this is the changes which can be seen just near to the pons. Okay, so do you have any queries till now? Anybody? Do you have any queries? So this is the homework for today's class. So draw the well-labeled diagram of medulla, pons and the midbrain. So I'll discuss the pons and midbrain in coming classes. So I gave the homework right now. So right now you can draw the medulla oblongata by showing the external features of the medulla oblongata. Okay, and you have to draw the section of the medulla oblongata at the level of pyramid and at the level of olive. So they are very important, and other two are also important. We frequently asked in exam. So